We are a part of a growing coalition of folks that are concerned, that have always been concerned with the housing crisis here in the city of Austin. But we're also equally concerned around some of the information and misinformation around Home 2. While we understand that Home 2 is not the end-all be-all for all of our housing problems here in the city of Austin, we do think that it is taking some of the right steps in the right direction. And we also absolutely think it could be a lot more and do a lot more. And also, we hear the critics of Home 2. We hear some of the critiques of Home 2, and we want to address some of that today, and we will. But first and foremost, we want to hear from some of our allies that join us today to not only talk about Home 2, but we're talking about the housing problem, the affordability problem on a larger scale. And first and foremost, I want to introduce the homeowner, one of the many homeowners that will be and can be affected by all of this housing policy talk that we're having, and that's Ms. Connie Jo Kirk. She's going to talk a little bit about why she let us be here today.
Okay, don't lean on the podium. Hi, I'm Connie Kirk, and this is my home. I've been living here for 34 years. I love living here, but also I'm a native-born Austinite, and I really don't want you to know how old I am, but I'm not ashamed. I'll just go on and tell you, though I don't look it, I know. 1948, and so I've seen the changes here in Austin. I've seen how it's grown. I've seen the differences of neighborhoods transpiring into something else. I am in favor of the phase 2 of home. I deserve the chance to maximize my property. I want to share my property with those who cannot afford to own expensive lands and homes here. That opportunity needs to be opened up for us, okay? And this could also cater to affordable homes, opportunities for people who don't have big incomes. This should not be the city for wealthy people. It should be for everybody, an opportunity to share this place. And so I'm voting for the expansion, hoping that the city council will expand the resolution of this phase 2, and that you all will agree with us and show support. We need you to come out and show support. I want to stay here, and there are a lot of other people who want to stay here. So let's show support for phase 2. Have a blessed day.
Next up, we have a longtime ally of the Austin Justice Coalition, and basically JP's pseudo replacement of Ave Zavar.
Thank y'all. My name is Yas Smith. I serve as the Deputy Director of Housing Works Austin, and we have long been part of this conversation around focusing on items like home, looking at how do we have smaller lot sizes, how do we have more flexibility for folks to be able to get the most opportunity out of their own land, but also provide housing opportunities to more people. And we've seen this throughout the home initiative. I really want to harken back to these conversations. These are not new. Really, when our city put together an anti-displacement task force, this was one of the recommendations that came from that task force that really said that we should allow homeowners like this to be able to subdivide their lots, to be able to stay in place, to be able to capitalize on their existing properties while also creating housing opportunities for more people. And that's part of what Home 2 will really do, while of course ensuring that we're looking at ways and policies that make this possible for more homeowners. What are those things that come in tandem to making sure that homeowners can themselves be able to utilize tools such as this and have support from the city? And we're excited to see all of this come together right now, and we're in big support of this item. Thank you.
Next up, we have another important ally of Austin Justice Coalition and just a powerhouse in the city. She represents the people that all keep us safe when tragedy happens. Selena, who is the EMS Association president.
Hello, again, my name is Selena. I'm president of the Austin EMS Association, and I'm here representing our medics and also who respond to all the 911 calls for EMS in the community, and also our patients. When I work on the ambulance, a lot of times many of our patients that we go see are actually very housing insecure. And so I remember one of the last patients that I went to her daughter's apartment. She actually had to move into her daughter's apartment because her apartment rent got so expensive. And because of the move, it was very stressful. She felt like her daughter was also about to have to be evicted because her rent was also going up and she couldn't afford it. Because of that sudden move that she made, she lost her medication, she couldn't find them. And so both she was dealing with mental health issues from the sudden move, and also her lack of diabetes and blood pressure medicine. And so we know that the affordability crisis is really affecting people's health. And we hope that by increasing the number of houses that can be built on the existing property, that people who can afford those starter homes will be able to move in and decrease the pressure on rental properties in Austin. As far as the paramedics that respond to these calls every day, 70% of them live outside of Travis County because they can't afford to live in the city, in the community. And so we'd love to have more starter homes for newer paramedics, and also so that folks can really think about building communities and living in the community that they serve. So it's really important for both our patients and also our paramedics who want to live in the city that they serve.
Thank you so much, Selena. And very briefly, I'll chime in on the overlay that we know some of the folks from Community Powered and their coalition is talking about. And we want to make it clear that for people to understand that an overlay can't produce housing that is truly affordable because inclusionary zoning is not legal in Texas. If they want to go to the ledge and fight for inclusionary zoning, we would support that 1,000%. Furthermore, a real equity overlay to work, it would have to be combined with a comprehensive code rewrite and a map change, which the lawsuit from the folks at Community Powered and some of their allies is blocking us from doing. We welcome a constructive conversation about how a real and effective equity overlay can be designed and achieved, but we don't think the city should stall giving Austinites real options like Selena, Ms. Connie Jo Kirk just talked about, real options to create more housing until the city can address the code comprehensively. As an organization that first proposed an equity overlay along with Avaze, we said an overlay must be honest and not used as a tactic to stall much needed change to the status quo. When cities choke all attempts at allowing for new housing types, they give more power to landlords and big developers, they exacerbate the crisis around homelessness, and they push working class families further out into the suburbs. So again, we know some folks from the Community Powered ATX Coalition is talking about an overlay, but we just got to be honest about these things. We can't use talking points to scare people into not having the conversation needed to fix this housing issue that we have. But next up, I'm going to bring up another union leader, a good friend of mine, Ryan Pollock, who's the IBEW 520 political director and International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 520.
Thanks, Chaz. So I represent electricians across Austin, or who work in Austin. According to a survey we put out to CBA negotiations ago, about 6 years ago, our members now live in a donut around Travis County. It's been that way for a long time. It didn't used to be that way, but if you look downtown, you see all the skyscrapers, you've seen the city changing, Samsung, Tesla, all these things that we're building, but we can't afford to live here in the place that we're building. And it's devastating to people because it's breaking up communities, it's breaking up families. I myself, I've lived here for 17 years. I was a military brat, so this is the first place I ever knew that was really home to me. And I've fought to stay here and I've succeeded, but I'm one of the only people that I know who's been able to do that from when I first moved here and even far later than that. It's status quo clearly isn't working. There aren't enough units. That's a nationwide problem. That's also a specifically Austin problem. We have to be able to address this. We have to be able to make it where people aren't having to commute. My members aren't having to commute an hour and a half into their jobs. It's difficult to get downtown. We need to be able to have public transportation, mass transportation. The way we do that is with effectively is with density. It doesn't work when people are too spread out, when these houses are too massive, and because that's all that's being built on these large properties are gigantic mansions that none of us can afford, nobody local realistically. So we need to be able to address this, and I applaud the city's efforts on trying to do that. Thanks, y'all.
Next up, we have another good friend. We have all our friends here today. Mike Siegel, who's a civil rights attorney in town, who's been helping a lot of these protesters, peaceful protesters, get out of that little legal jam they've been in. And he's a candidate for District 7. Mike.
Well, I'm Mike Siegel, civil rights lawyer, as Chaz mentioned. Honored to be here with Austin Area Urban League, Austin Justice Coalition, and Ms. Connie Kirk. You know, I support Home Phase 2 and also the demand for density and additional programs. That's the key here. We don't think Home Phase 2 is enough, but it is good policy. It's good housing policy because we need more housing, and this is going to facilitate more construction of middle-class housing. It's good environmental policy because, frankly, if we don't build this housing, we're pushing people to the suburbs, we're facilitating sprawl with a very negative climate impact. It's good fiscal policy because it's more expensive for the city to maintain infrastructure and utilities in the suburbs than it is right here in the urban core. And as these union brothers have mentioned, it's good policy for workers because the people who make Austin great, the people who are building the city, maintaining the city, caring for us in the city, they deserve to be able to live in this city. And as I've been campaigning for city council, I recently spoke to a nurse's supervisor. I'm knocking doors in North Austin. This gentleman works at St. David's on 38th. And he told me that to be an on-call nurse in Austin, you have to be at your station within 30 minutes of getting a call. But nurses can't afford to live in the 30-minute call radius. And so whatever you think about abstract ideas about housing policy, I think we can all agree that we need nurses to be able to live in the city limits. We need teachers to be able to live in the city limits. We need electrical workers to be able to live in the city limits. So that's why I support Home, but we also need to take additional action because I think we can all here agree that the market economy does not take care of our black community, does not take care of working class people. And so that's why the city needs to get involved to promote affirmative programs, to use our resources to make sure affordable housing gets built for the right people in our community. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mike. Next up, we have a mentor of mine, a friend of mine, a business owner, and if you also need your taxes done, he can do that. Yas Smith.
Much has been said, and I'll try not to reiterate all those things. I believe in the home program, but the one thing I want to put on everybody's heart that may be listening: policy, procedures, laws should never over-prioritize humanity. And we have allowed ourselves to not look at the human aspects of what we are doing in this city. And we're pushing people that built this city to a place to be desirable out. And those that continue to build it to be more desirable, we're saying you can build, but you can't live here. We cannot prioritize anything over humanity.
Thank you, Derek. Next up, we have from the Labor's International Union 1095, Jeremy Hendricks.
Thank you. I'm hoping this will hold this because I'm old school. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeremy Hendricks. I'm with the Labor's International Union of North America. We're a construction and service worker union that helps build a better Texas. I want to thank everybody for inviting me here today. LIUNA and the Central Texas Building Trades are very proud to support Home because we need greater affordability. We need immediate and immense need for that affordability, but we also know we can do more for our community, our struggling and marginalized communities, to ensure more density and deeply affordable housing. It's truly a tragedy that the construction workers who are toiling every day to build this city under the hot Texas sun in dangerous working conditions to build the Austin of tomorrow can't afford to live here today. And sadly, even though our building trades union members make higher than average wages, they still can't afford to live here. They're being priced out of this city, making it harder and harder to find the workers we need to keep this economic engine going. And because of that, it's getting more and more expensive to build all the things we need in our infrastructure. We can't let Austin be a victim of its own success. So it's time for real and extensive action to address this crisis. We all know that density leads to good things for our community. It lowers costs to maintain our infrastructure, less traffic, more transit use. It attracts new businesses, more employers, meaning more jobs closer to home, and it reduces environmental impact and urban sprawl. The bottom line is that Austin needs more housing. We need more affordable housing. We need more deeply affordable housing that's available to everyone. So we encourage Austin City Council to pass Home 2, but we also ask them to use every tool in their toolbox to make sure that we are creating more affordable, sustainable, and inclusive housing for us and future generations. I want to thank everybody for being here today and look forward to the passage of Home 2 and all the other good things we can do for the people of Austin.
Very well said, Jeremy. Next up, we have another friend and mentor of mine, outstanding citizen to our community here, Pastor Sid Johnson, who's going to speak, and then he'll be followed immediately by Ms. Yas Smith, Vice President of Advocacy and Justice at the Area Urban League to close us out. So,
good evening, and thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak. I am Pastor Sid Johnson. I want to talk or should I say, be the voice for the black community that's over 50 years old. Everybody, I echo the sentiments of what everybody have said. I am total. There are some things that we may not agree with Home 2, but I like what it means, and I like what it stands for. It gives us an opportunity for the black and brown community to stay in the community that we fought for, that we serve, that we grew up, and now all of these elderly people who are being forced out, not because they don't own their property, but because the taxes have went so up that they can't afford to live and can't afford to pay the taxes. Home 2 gives us a fighting chance. Home 2 says I can stay in my house, put a small house on maximize my property, and still remain in the community that I love, that I grew up in, that my mom grew up in, that my grandmother grew up in, and we keep talking about affordable living, affordable housing. Yes, Austin needs affordable houses. We don't need more houses. We need more affordable houses, and I think Home 2 is putting us on the right track, or at least getting us where we need to be, and allowing the people who made this community what it is to remain in this community. So as the voice, or one of the voices in the black community, I support Home 2. And I am asking every black person and every brown person to get behind this bill, and let's pass it so that our elderly people can remain in the community that they built, that they grew up in, and that they love so dearly.
Yes.
Good afternoon. My name is Yas Smith. I am Vice President of Justice and Advocacy for the Austin Area Urban League. As a born and raised Austinite, there is an issue when it comes to me being able to afford a home. I'm going to be very vulnerable and transparent and honest. As a born and raised Austinite, I have never lived in a home. I've never been able to walk outside my front door to a yard. I've never been able to plant roots. I've never been able to call something my own. And though Home 2 allows for density, I also understand the necessity for affordability. Austin Area Urban League has been in the middle of the battleground, saying yes and. We are done stalling, folding our hands and saying no completely. We cannot stall density any further. So yes to density, and offering tax abatement. Yes to density, but also creating access to capital for homeowners that are on the lower MFIR scale so they can be stabilized. Yes to density, but also creating solutions to the construction of housing for people of lower income. Yes to density, but also working with community members to reshape what affordability means. As a born and raised Austinite, I can tell you how many things I've seen, how many changes I've seen, how many people, places, and things that I've lost. Mama Connie Kirk is one of my constituents. I also advise and support my low MFIers, but we cannot negate her lived experience as well. We cannot negate the lived experience of the low MFIer, born and raised Black Austinite, who but for not being able to maximize her property is in jeopardy of losing her property. So yes, and. We are encouraged by the recent proposals by the Yas members. We've seen many message posts on the message board. We are extremely excited about a subquorum of D7 and Natasha Harper Madison and Fuentes, who have actually found a solution to the access to capital. And we are also encouraged by Velasquez's proposed amendment to study the impacts of Home 2 in order to mitigate foreseeable harms. We are in support of Homes 2, but we do believe that we can do even a little bit better. Thank you, and we'll take questions if you have any.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear, some of the pushback has been a homeowner being able to afford to subdivide their property. So
Great question.
If they want to sell off their backyard or have something built in their backyard. So curious what you guys make of perhaps that barrier to entry.
Definitely. So the question is, what about the barrier to entry? You're saying we can subdivide our lots, but yes, I'm drowning under taxes. I wouldn't have the money to subdivide my lot if I wanted to. That's why the programmatic element, specifically from the subquorum I just mentioned, that has access to capital is so important. Yes, and there's a private partnership in the works. It's being published. I'm looking at D7 now to see when it's going to be published. But I've looked at the language, and there's an opportunity here to have low MFIers have access to capital. Everybody gets to deserve to use their land how they see fit. Everybody gets to deserve to put rental properties to maximize their units, to maximize their square footage. And it's not by saying no to density, it's by saying yes and to access to capital.
Considering there many times in politics and regulations and interfering with market forces, there are winners and losers. Who loses if Home 2 wins?
Who loses if Home 2 wins? If Home 2 wins, I don't think there necessarily are what you would call losers, is how you define losers. If Home 2 passes, we all win because there are density on the ground to give us a fighting chance. You only lose if you don't take advantage of the access to capital and the stabilization programmatic overlays that we're adding to Homes 2 in order to stabilize. Does anybody have any follow-up? You want to come with this?
Yeah, I'll just add to that, right? I think to Yaz's point, and Audrey, you had asked this question earlier as well. A bunch of folks here, Austin Justice Coalition, Urban League, Housing Works, all of us, we've been working with council members to look at what are those opportunities that make us go beyond that, right? So to Yaz's point, this is like, if we're saying yes to this, what are those other things that are necessary to make sure there are no losers? Can we imagine a world together where we can provide opportunities to our community and ensure that we do it in an equitable way? And part of that is working on these financing rules, working to make sure that the subdivision process is easy, that we're supporting homeowners and people who live here to be able to utilize these tools for their benefit. And that's, I think, what we're really focused on. So we truly believe that we can work towards a situation where we're talking about creating new opportunities that are attainable and affordable for people, but also at the same time making sure we have tools to keep people in place.
Very well said. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you for reporting out.
Yeah, thank y'all.
Yay, well done. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Jeremy Hendricks. Nice to meet you.
All right. Well,
Jeremy Hendricks.